please. Take mine. You're shivering worse than I am." The words floated through the frosted morning air, soft yet insistent. Hartley Vance stood outside the small coffee shop, her worn coat pulled tight around her frame, her 4-year-old daughter, Piper, clinging to her hand. Before her stood a stranger in an expensive but rumpled suit, his face pale from the biting January cold. He looked at the steaming cup she was offering him, the one she'd just bought with her last few dollars. "I can't. That's yours." "I'm used to the cold," Hartley said gently, pressing the cup into his hands. "And my daughter's waiting in the car with the heater on. You look like you need this more than I do." The man, Thorne Ashford, though she didn't know it, stared at her with something between confusion and disbelief. In his 34 years, no one had ever given him something expecting nothing in return. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice catching. "You have no idea what this means." Hartley smiled, that tired but genuine smile of someone who'd learned to find light in small moments. "We all need help sometimes. Stay warm." She turned and walked back to her old sedan, where Piper's face was pressed against the window. Thorne watched them drive away, the coffee warming his frozen hands, something else warming the ice around his heart. Hartley had been a single mother for 3 years, working double shifts at a local diner, living paycheck to paycheck in a tiny rental house. Every penny was accounted for. That morning's coffee had been a rare indulgence, a moment of warmth before another long day. But she'd seen something in that stranger's eyes, not just cold, but a deeper kind of emptiness. And she'd been taught by her late grandmother that kindness wasn't about what you could spare, it was about what you chose to share. Thorne Ashford was the CEO of Ashford Aviation, a helicopter manufacturing empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He had no family left, never married, never had children. His wealth had built walls around him, and he'd come to believe humanity was inherently selfish, that every kindness hid an agenda. But his friend Calloway had challenged him. "You've only tested people who know who you are. Try someone who has no idea you're worth anything." So Thorne had dressed down, walked through an unfamiliar neighborhood in the bitter cold, and waited to see if anyone would notice his discomfort. 23 people had passed him. Only one had stopped. The next morning, Hartley was making Piper breakfast when she heard it, a rhythmic thumping that grew louder, rattling the windows. She ran to the door just as her neighbor appeared on the sidewalk, pointing skyward. A helicopter was descending, settling onto the empty lot beside her house. Hartley's heart hammered as the rotors slowed. The door opened, and out stepped the man from yesterday, but now flanked by assistants, wearing a crisp suit, looking every inch the powerful executive she suddenly realized he was. "Mommy, is that a real helicopter?" Piper breathed, her small hand gripping Hartley's. Thorne approached slowly, his expression softer than she'd ever seen on someone so clearly wealthy. "I'm sorry for the dramatic entrance. I needed to find you." "Who are you?" Hartley asked, her voice steady despite her confusion. "I'm Thorne Ashford, and yesterday you gave me something I didn't think existed anymore. Genuine kindness, expecting nothing in return." Over coffee in her modest kitchen, this time he brought the coffee, Thorne explained everything. He told her about the test, about his cynicism, about the 23 people who'd ignored him. "I was ready to confirm my worst beliefs about humanity, that everyone is out for themselves, that kindness is just a transaction. And then you gave me your last coffee. Why?" Hartley was quiet for a moment. "My grandmother raised me after my parents passed. We didn't have much, but she taught me that being poor in money doesn't mean being poor in spirit. She used to say, "We may not have wealth, but we have the richest gift, the ability to see another person's need and respond to it." Thorne's jaw tightened with emotion. "You were struggling. I could see it. Yet you still gave. Because you were human and you were cold. That's all that mattered." She met his eyes. "What I don't understand is why you're here now."
"Because I want to help you the way you helped me, not as charity, as gratitude." He leaned forward. "I run a company that builds helicopters, but I need good people. You have something most of my executives lack. You see people. Really see them. I'm offering you a position, training, a real salary, benefits, stability for Piper." Hartley shook her head. "I'm a diner waitress. I don't know anything about your world." "Then let me teach you. You have the most important qualification. You care about doing right by people." Hartley hesitated for days, but Thorne returned, not pressuring her, just talking. He played with Piper, learned about Hartley's dreams, shared his own story of isolation despite success. "I thought money solved everything," he admitted, "but I'd been miserable for years. Then you handed me that coffee, and I saw something I'd forgotten existed. Hope. Human connection." "I was just being decent," Hartley whispered. "Exactly. You were just being decent, and that changed everything for me." He looked at her earnestly. "Take the training. Try the job for 3 months. If it doesn't work, you've lost nothing. But if it does, you and Piper could have the security you deserve." That night, Hartley thought about her grandmother's words. Sometimes kindness returns in unexpected ways. 2 lives meeting at exactly the right moment. 6 months later, Hartley was thriving as Ashford Aviation's Director of Employee Relations. She'd discovered a talent for understanding what workers needed. Thorne had been right. Her ability to see people was exactly what his company lacked. But more than the job, something deeper had shifted. Thorne had become part of their lives, attending Piper's preschool events, helping them move into a safer home, sharing quiet dinners. One evening, as they sat watching Piper play, Thorne said quietly, "That morning I met you, I was testing humanity. But you weren't just proving a point, you were saving me from myself. I decided if no one helped, I'd sell everything and disappear. You didn't just give me coffee, Hartley. You gave me a reason to keep believing people are worth knowing, worth trusting." She reached for his hand. "And you gave me and Piper a future I couldn't have imagined. You showed us that admitting you need help is the bravest thing anyone can do." Piper ran up then, breathless and glowing. "Mr. Thorne! Mommy, look!" Thorne lifted her up, and Hartley watched them together. This man who had everything but connection, and her daughter who had love but little else, now forming a family neither had planned for. "Thank you for teaching me that the smallest act of kindness can change everything," Thorne whispered. "And thank you for showing me that when we help someone else, we're really helping ourselves find our way home," Hartley replied. A single cup of coffee on a frozen morning had warmed 2 lives, proving that kindness is never wasted. It simply waits for the right moment to bloom into something beautiful. Because the truest wealth isn't found in bank accounts or helicopters. It's found in the moment someone sees your need and says, "Please, take mine." If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, subscribe, and comment.